then the existence of AI, it just gives you the chance to make more money, right?
Exactly.
But how do we make sure they are properly trained? The education minister thinks we should do this. Listen.
GTech has to work with tertiary education institutions. They accommodate the learning needs of these new students who are using their minds and using their hands in designing robots and doing so many unique things. So the idea is to make sure that we have a seamless transition from high school to the university.
Yeah. I mean, he makes an important point that, look, these guys are getting a certain training, all right, at the secondary level, which must continue. Okay, so he's suggesting that somehow there should be what he describes as a seamless transition is what I'm interested in. What is it about the transition that needs to be improved? I thought that we had to improve the quality of teaching and learning at the tertiary education level so that when they make it there, they can expand their horizons, develop their skills, and do even more.
Yeah.
But he's talking about the transition. He says he needs it to be seamless. What does that mean?
I'm lost myself, so hopefully there are some answers. But I mean, if you look at the investment in tech in general in our schools, there's nothing good to write home about. So I mean, if we want to talk about AI, I'm just even looking at the basics.
Yeah.
We've done so much in that area.
Yeah. This particular education minister has been very STEM focused.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing. I mean, thank God for that. So it means that he's obviously thinking ahead, right? And he does see the need for these skills to be developed in young people. And he's set up a few model schools that are doing that to a very, very good standard. There's a need for it to be expanded further across, the education landscape. And more people need to get access to it. Doesn't matter which part of the country you're from, you should be able to get into these STEM schools and all that. And it must continue at tertiary level because that's where the real development of these skills happen, right? Even in the US, all these great Silicon Valley superstars, they honed their skills in university.
Yeah.
All right. From Mark Zuckerberg to, you name it. Even those who dropped out.
Mm-hmm.
They got the bug, they got the ideas while they were college students, because that is where you get the most facilities, the access to the most equipment and so forth, the most opportunity to develop these skills, So he's certainly concerned that tertiary education needs to up its game, but he's talking about a transition. I mean, that's where I got a bit confused. Does he mean that they shouldn't write exams? They should just,
I don't have an idea.
Yeah, I don't know. But no, one thing that's to his credit that he certainly has his eye on, the advancement of technology and how we should leverage it. Yeah, we'll talk more about it later on the show. Right now, though, the 6 a.m. news was brought to us by Total Energies. Total, we go the extra mile for you. And Absa Bank Ghana Limited, helping you find a way to get things done. And that heralds the Joy Business Report, brought to us by Glyco Life Travel Insurance. Glyco, we cushion you for life. And Africa World Airlines, touching Africa, touching the world.
Hi, welcome to the Joy Business Report. Coming up this morning, bilateral creditors reject haircut as Ghana is expected to commence service in external debts after 4 years. Meanwhile, rating agency Fitch expects Ghana and Zambia to emerge from default on their foreign currency debt in 2024. Also coming up, CD weakened 1.22% to the US dollar in the retail market last week, but expected inflow of $600 million from IMF expected to reduce strain on local currency. We've got details coming up. Don't go anywhere. Hello, thanks for joining us on the Joy Business Report. Good morning to our friends listening on KTU Radio in Koforidua. We want to begin with the latest on the IMF economic program. There will be no haircut on the $5.4 billion bilateral debt that will be restructured. These are some of the terms that Joy Business has picked up from the official creditor committee. Now, the cut-off date for restructuring Ghana's bilateral debt is now pegged at December 2022 instead of March 2022. But Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta insists negotiations are yet to be finalized on the various terms.
It gives us some leeway the next 3 years with regards to servicing of the loans that we have, and that gives us space that we want. What we have now is it gives enough financial assurance for the IMF to sit. We now are going to take our time to get into the nitty-gritties of the MOU. And so that's what is ahead of us. And we'll now work with them into the details of that.
Does the preliminary term sheet include the no cut on the principal and the interest, and then the fact that there's still a freeze after 4 years before we start paying something as well?
I think those broad parameters, are in there. And I really don't want to be drawn into the details because those are really going to change. But what
you had the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta speaking on a PM Express Business Edition, which will air this Thursday on the Joy News channel at 9 p.m. Now, rating agency Fitch expects Ghana and Zambia to emerge from default on their foreign currency debt in 2024. In its Regional Sub-Saharan Africa Sovereign Outlook 2024, it stated that the two countries will come good in terms of restructuring their debts. Here's more.
The UK-based firm said the macro outlook for sub-Saharan Africa in 2024, including Ghana, points to stable median real gross domestic product growth and lower average inflation, which nonetheless remains high across a number of sovereigns. It, however, expects financing challenges to persist as most sub-Saharan African sovereigns do not have affordable access to international capital markets without credit enhancements. It forecasts a gradual fiscal consolidation due to financing constraints and fiscal reform efforts, which in many cases are linked to International Monetary Fund programs. This consolidation, it believes, will help government debt to the size of the economy to broadly stabilize. It warned that multilateral funding will remain a key support more broadly across the region. However, risks remain tilted to the downside.
That was a Business Desk report. The business community has said that the $600 million second tranche bailout package from the International Monetary Fund will come in handy to complement the recovery of the country's macro economy. According to the Association of Ghana Industries, the consistent drop in inflation plus the relative stability of the exchange rate regime can be attributed to the support from the IMF. Hence, the timeliness of the second tranche bailout package. Chonam Akpalo, who is the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the Association of Ghana Industries, has been speaking with Joy Business.
The good thing is that the inflation rate has been there's an improvement in the inflation rate, but we'd like to see a more deeper inflation. Ideally, we look forward for single-digit inflation rates. Normally, it's better that way, so that you can be sure that prices are generally more stable, and that helps us in our overall industrial planning. And so, of course, the IMF bailout will come handy, hopefully to deepen this, and also for the central bank to consider to reduce its policy rate because it has been inflation targeting focus. So really, if this comes, all of these indicators hopefully will be affected in a good way so that overall the industrial environment in Ghana will flourish.
Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the Association of Ghana Industries, Chonam Akpalo there. Now, the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Reverend Dr. Amisha Dawusu, has said that the GRA's willingness, or has said the GRA is willing to engage all large and medium taxpayers to retrieve outstanding taxes. According to him, the authority is ready to use all existing laws to ensure tax revenues are collected for the state without any compromise. Speaking to Joy Business on some actions taken to retrieve debt from industries and other large businesses in the country, the Commissioner General, Reverend Dr. Amisha Dawusu, said the focus remains on getting revenue to build the country's economy rather than just closing down businesses.
there are a number of companies that I don't want to mention the name at this moment, but there are some factories that we have closed and reopened and closed and reopened. Sometimes the press will ask you close and reopen, you don't seem to have the teeth to bite. But I think the purpose is that when we close, we want you to be able to come, we engage, we see how best we can help you. If you still don't comply with the settlement agreement and we have to move on to the next stage, we will move on to the next stage. So we are committed to making sure that we get the taxes, but at the same time to make sure that Ghanaians also get the jobs and get the production and our GDP going up.
You heard Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Reverend Dr. Ameshadai Osu Amwa. Now, the cedi weakened 1.22% to the US dollar on the retail market last week following depreciation pressures. However, the expected inflow of a $600 million bailout package from the International Monetary Fund will reduce the strain on the local currency in the near term. Here's more in this report.
Despite the ease in inflation and the announcement by the government that it had reached debt restructuring agreements with its official creditors, the local currency lost value to all the major foreign currencies. The central bank also auctioned $20 million for the bulk oil distribution companies in its first sale for the year. But it failed to tame the persistent corporate demand as the local currency unit closed trading on the retail market at 12 cedis 33 pesos to a dollar. However, the expected $600 million inflows from the International Monetary Fund after its board approval of the first program review this Friday should help improve market sentiments. This will shore up foreign exchange reserves and strengthen supply-side intervention.
Meanwhile, on the currency market this morning, the dollar going for 12 cedis 30 pesos, that's still in the retail market. The pound going for 15 cedis 35 pesos, and the euro going for 13 cedis 30 pesos. In other news, rice and rubber value chains could rake in $100 million annually if properly invested in. That's according to Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agricultural Lending, GESOL, Kwesi Kobo. Now, speaking to Joy Business after Absa Bank Ghana received an award for its role in agri financing, Mr. Kobo indicated that agricultural lending has increased since the establishment of GESOL. He however says that more can be done to improve the sector.
The reality is that not only have we seen agricultural lending improving in quantum, but also seen some sectors change. Let me give you an example. Take the rubber value chain, for example. Yes, you may say rubber is not food, but it's agriculture. And those who process caplams, export, bring in needed foreign exchange. Since our operations in 2019, we have helped set up 2 indigenous rubber factories in this country. And if we're able to, through our assistance, help work with the banks, finance more rubber factories that they can bring in a minimum, and these are indigenous companies owned by Ghanaians, $50 million a year annually. I mean, that I believe is remarkable. Currently, we're also now pioneering a new model in our rice value chain. We've just done the first deal in our Afram Plains. We're about working on the second one, and we're hoping that, and that we're doing collaboration with DBG. Absa is also very much involved in one of them. And the idea is that we're hoping that by end of the year, we should have leveraged finance of close to $50 million in a rice value chain.
Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Incentive-Based Risk-Sharing System for Agricultural Lending, Kwesi Kobo. Now let's turn to Investor Eye. Director General of Securities and Exchange Commission, Reverend Daniel Bamitete, warns prospective investors not to be lured by unrealistic promises of returns on investments.
You see, there's something fundamental with any business model. In business school, we learned about something called a cash conversion cycle. That is how that entity makes money. Okay. So if somebody promises you that I'm going to give you 10% per week or 20% per month, and it's going to go for a long time, you need to ask yourself, what is it that entity is doing to be able to generate that kind of return, to be able to take a certain portion of their own profit but still pay you that amount? Because if you are paying somebody 10% a month, that's like 120% a year. What is what is the underlying business?
And that's our Investor Eye episode for today. Make a date on Thursday for another episode of Investor Eye. Before we go, an update on the commodity market. Crude oil remains at $78 a barrel this morning. Gold lost more than $7. Is selling this morning at $2,049 an ounce. Cocoa trading at $4,323 a ton after going up by $49. There's more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business.